And now it's my joy and honor to introduce Mary Point. She's with us today. So Mary joined us last November when we had our big Peace Train kickoff over at the Center for Peace. She was one of the folks who offered a blessing for our delegation. So we're so grateful to her for having done that. And then for her to be with us again today. So Mary's role is as the Director of Indigenous Relations at Vancouver's International Airport. And she's the Relationship Manager for the Musqueam Indian Band and YVR Airport Sustainability and Friendship Agreement. So she's a proud member of the Musqueam Nation and has worked for decades to develop partnerships with First Nations communities and local businesses and folks from around BC. So when you're ready, over to you, Mary.
Haichka siem, haichka kotanesiea. Each while, hello, bonjour. Can you say each while?
Each while.
That means good day, or is it a good day? And if it was a good day, you would say itzen.
Itzen.
And if it's not a good day, you'll say my granddaughter's favorite word to say to me, awa. No, it's not a good day. xʷməthkվəy. xʷməthkվəy and the Mary Point Tanitsana xʷməthkвəy. Ear to ear, thumb-thamals. Ichla ayalmuch. Ichla kawen. Ichla chalkan. Ichla mali. Ichla Musqueam, Ichla squayos, Ichla shwakathat, Ichla shwmasqueam ath tameth, Ichla ta shwametst, ami xʷməthkվəy. In the language of my ancestors, I let you know, respected friends and relatives, for all our ancestors who may be standing with me or gathering as I speak our language, I said, today we're gathered in a place called thumb-thamals, a place of the grindstone, where there is much evidence of where our tools were made in this area. And there's a trace back from where tools are found at Sesnam or Samaltsum, where I work at the airport, that can also be traced back to this place. I named a few of the places and spaces around this area: Ayalmuch, the gathering place; Kawam, the place of the howling dog; Chalkan, Keapalanuch's fort just out past UBC; Mali, which is a primary village in what is now known as Indian Reserve Number 2, where most of my family live; directly south, Musqueam, the boggy place, the place of the Sifki, the two-headed serpent that slithered across the lands and carved out our creeks and streams, leaving in its wake a beautiful reed with a purple floret that grew abundant along the banks of the creeks and vastly abundant along the shores. This plant was known as the Musqueam plant, and our family became known as the people of the Musqueam. Our locational words that tell us where we're from. To the southeast, Squayos, a place of panorama. And I always like to mention just to the northeast, Shwakathat, once known as a good place to catch the tide. Now there's just a little school named after it to remember False Creek, Granville Island, all filled in now. But regardless of all of the places I've named and all of the places I haven't named, places of ceremony, secret hunting hides and courting spots, and places to pick berries, or just family gathering places, or all the other places in between that I haven't named, regardless of what we think of this place, a shared place of some of my relatives, or the west side of Vancouver, or right here in this place of peace, I think all of us collectively think of this place as T'Shwametst, our home. The last words I said, "Ami xʷməthkʷəy," are very important to my family. They mean all are welcome here. And I think based on all I know about this place, those are apt words for standing here amongst all of you. It's really important for me to ground any words that I might say in a sense of place and connection. I was really pleased to see that reading from Job, who my mother used to say was actually my patron saint. Job, for those who know all those stories, I had to look it up back when she told me. It's just a person who has to maybe encounter a number of barriers. But I always also feel a strong connection to animals and children. So I really love being here on this day and hearing those words. I wanted to share, I wrote down, Kathy asked me, am I going to reference any scripture? So apologies to my Irish Catholic mother for whatever I might say next, but because I wasn't always the best of the students. So I did choose a couple of things myself that I want to read, but before I read those, I'll just share our creation story, because I think it's aligned with what you were saying earlier, Jeff. Our first ancestors descended from the sky, wrapped in clouds. And it soon became evident that not all of us were meant to be two-legged creatures. So our teacher, Charles, came amongst us and transformed some of us into rocks and trees and flowers and birds and fish and other animals. And I feel those words really mean to me that we're all connected, that we are the land is us, that the deer, the fish, the birds, they're all part of who we are. And so I really love those words of respect from Job for all living creatures. So forgive me, Mother, as I share what the readings that I chose. And admittedly, I was saying to my good friend Robin, I did have to Google. I don't carry these words around with me often, but I did choose. I won't read everything I chose, but I did like the idea of choosing Proverbs and other readings, because those translate to so many other teachings across the globe. So the first one I chose, Psalm 127:3. Children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from him. I actually started up looking up Bless the Beast and the Children, but it turns out that's words from a pop song. So, Proverbs 22:6. Start children off on the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not turn from it. True meaning that our faith is love. And if we're raised with love and not fear of our faith, that our children will carry that forward. Ephesians 6:4. And you, fathers and mothers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in nurture and admonition of the Lord. And the last one I want to share, Proverbs 12:10, caring for all creatures. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. So I think throughout all of that, that sort of sets the tone for the stories that I want to share today, that our children and our animals, they're extensions of love. Their unconditional love is undeniable. And if they do need correcting, that we want to correct them with kindness and love as a teaching, rather than in the way my father might have learned. I'll start by sharing a little story about my grandmother, xʷməthkʷəy. She was from the Musqueam Nation, and she married my grandfather, Salsumpkin, Tony Point, from the Musqueam Nation in a Musqueam longhouse when she was 13. And I love thinking about them and their time on this earth, because they were here before a lot of all these buildings and houses were here. I always used to joke with my grandma, what was it like being here before the invention of the car? So she laughed at me. I was thinking about her a lot on the way here because as I'm driving north, I could see the Twin Peaks, the peacemakers, the daughters of Keapolanoch, who watch over us. And it really made me feel connected to her this morning because I used to sit on her back porch and we would look up at the mountains and she would talk about the times when she, as a young girl, would climb the mountains almost every day to gather medicines and berries. And it was a good life for her. And when she married my grandfather, they moved to Quayaach, and had 3 children together. Quayaach is what you will now know as Garry Point in Steveston, so renamed by Captain Vancouver, who, like the Spanish before them, just came through renaming all our places and spaces after their friends and compadres. And I think about the Spanish when they arrived, even though their map maker, Jose Cardero, kept good logs of our place names in his map book and about meeting our relatives, those Spanish were waving that doctrine of discovery, declaring us all non-humans and discounting our existence here. But anyway, despite that, my grandparents lived in Quayaach, happily fishing, living off the shores, until the children were taken at age 2, 3, and 4, my father being the age 3. And needless to say, the marriage didn't survive as a result of that loss and sense of powerlessness. And my grandmother, she moved home to the North Shore. Her children were in the St. Paul's residential school, which I've been in her house, as I say, and you can see and maybe even throw a rock from her front yard to the St. Paul's school. And she wrote in her diary, which we found after she passed, how she used to stand at the fence and hope to have a glimpse of her daughter Helen or her son. But she never did. So she took a job there. She applied for a job, and of course she was hired, but the nuns were onto her, so they kept her away from the children. And she didn't see them for 6 years. And that was really a time of brutality for the children. And I won't go into all the detail because I'm mindful that there are young ears here, but I'll just say that when the children came home for that first summer, they had to go back afterwards. They blamed her for having been taken, for not saving them from everything that happened. And that anger stayed between them until they all left this earth. And I could never really understand all of that as a child myself, hearing things blurted out in moments of anger. But when I saw that diary, I really thought, this is what they were faced with. And I think about our children now, and if you think of any 2, 3, 4, 9-year-olds that you know, and just imagine what it would be like. I think about I remember, I'll just quickly say, at work I do a lot of education, and I remember the first announcement of the first 215 children at Tk'emlúps Residential School. This was not news to us, maybe the numbers, that was it. But I will never forget coming into work that day and having a line of people waiting for me who wanted to ask, is this true? I'm a good Christian. My church would have never done this. And I was thinking, where were you? And I made you write, what does reconciliation mean to me on your orange shirt that I gave you? But I think we were in just the second year of the pandemic at that time, so everything was getting real. We were in the time of George Floyd and Islamophobia and Asian hate, and everyone was stuck at home fact-checking everything. So it was really hitting home, all of those lessons. And I remember then thinking, and not being surprised at them demanding that we do more, that we all have to do more. When we think about the calls to action from Truth and Reconciliation, it can be a lot to unpack. But for those of us who might be the skimmers of the universe, we think about how it's nicely laid out with headings that lead us through a good way to find a place to start, some place to connect. The very first call to action is legacy. What is the story that you want to tell? If someone asks you, this happened, what did you do? And there are lots of things you can do as an individual or as an organization, but you can just take it at your own pace, because this is a time for us to learn and walk forward together in a good way. The other calls to action are education and professional development, of course, talking to our businesses and our churches and our museums and our governments about doing better. It also incorporates the 42 articles from the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which takes into consideration families, First Nations people, first people of the land, I should say, from all over the globe who arrive on our shores seeking safety, because they've also had to flee violence or war or climate or poverty or other injustices. And they arrive here a lot of times. We see them arriving at the airport, children and women holding maybe one item, which is all they've got left from that life they left behind. And they deserve safety. And they need to be free to be who they are. And these are the things that we try to demonstrate. Of course, all of the calls to action focus on the children. Children as young as 3 have been unearthed and accounted for in those residential schools. And when we think about what happened, those children who went in the ground without notification home that your child had passed away, maybe just told that your child was missing. They went into the ground without records, without caskets, without headstones, without ceremony, without love. But they are loved and they are wanted home. But it's a mess because we're matching organic materials in the soil against missing persons reports and testimonies of other children who were there. And it's not easy to find your child because a lot of families were split up and siblings sent to different communities, moved around, names changed. And I'm mindful of one Inuit mother who looked for her daughter for 50 years and finally found her in a school ground in New Jersey under another name. But the DNA proved that was her. But this is what we're faced with. So we know it's a long journey ahead in order to sort through that mess. We hope that they do get home. But in the meantime, we'll carry forward trying to know that we're still here, sharing our teachings, speaking our language, free to be who we are, and learning about all of you, because the very last call to action is welcome newcomers. And I think sharing culture with one another is our way forward in a good way, being accepting of one another in a time when some people out there in the world are speaking loudly about being different and not accepting it. This is our time to walk forward together, understanding one another. I love this place of peace, this time of forgiveness and understanding and sharing, because I really think that's who we are. That's who we want to be. We want to be better. We want to be good to one another. We want to treat people as we want to be treated, as they say. But I think kindness takes us a long way, and generous understanding. So with all that being said, I'm going to stop talking now because I really want to be here for the pet blessings. So Normally at this song I would sing our paddle song, which comes from Kwayach, but I'm going to instead sing a song that came to me because my grandchildren moved in with me, and it's all in Hunquminum, but I'm going to teach it to you and hopefully you'll sing. The words mean, "Oh, little one, my heart is filled with joy to be here with you today. We are one with strong hearts, oh, little one." Sounds nice? It's very simple, so. And I know there are singers here, so people who could know, so maybe Robin and Kathy and Jeff will join me as we sing, and then you guys will jump in. I'll sing it all through twice. Yeah, I'm pointing at Robin, and she's like, "What? I wasn't told." I know she's a singer. I've never actually been to one of her concerts, but I will. Oh, manna, tanna, manna, I tanna squallow and kunzi, kutsnala. Oh, manna, tanna, manna, I tanna squallow and kunzi, kutsnala. Not so much squallow and not so much squallow and quam, quam, squallow and quam, quam, squallow and oh, manna, tanna, manna. What do you think? Yeah? Okay.
Come on.
Oh, manna, tanna, manna, I tanna squallow and kunzi, kutsnala. Oh, manna, tanna, manna, I tanna squallow and kunzi, kutsnala. Not so much squallow and not so much squallow and quam, quam, squallow and quam, quam, squallow and oh, manna, tanna, manna. Wanano ay, excellent. Excellent. My heart really is filled with joy to be here with all of you today on this special day. I feel really lifted up to be standing with you and my good friends, and I want to lift you up in return. Hi, Tsepka.
Thank you, Mary.